We hadn't planned on meeting Ruskin Bond. The journey was a quiet pilgrimage through the Himalayas, drawn more to clouds, silence, and the smell of wet pine than to people or appointments. But Mussoorie, with its habit of tossing in the unexpected, had other plans. Word came that Mr. Bond might be available. If we could come on a short notice, there was no real set of questions, only a few jottings on a piece of paper, half thoughts really. Still, we went more with curiosity than intent, eager for a peep into the world of someone who had shaped many young minds. When we arrived, he wasn't in the best of health. A lingering cold, a persistent cough, and a weight of years would have made it perfectly reasonable for him to decline. But he didn't. He greeted us with warmth, and we sat together, two strangers with time in our hands, the hills leaning in through the window. It wasn't an interview in any formal sense. We drifted from writing to memory to odd bits of life that seem small until spoken aloud. And he, with his quiet humor and gentle clarity, made even the ordinary feel quietly significant. What follows is not a structured dialogue, but a record of that shared hour, unplanned, unscripted, and deeply human.
Your writing feels like that it's like taking a stroll down the memory lane. Is there any particular memory that stands out and says that yes, I'm a writer, and from now this time onwards I will start writing?
Oh, I see. Well, when actually at school, I was already interested in writing and writing little stories. But I guess, and by the time I'd finished school, I decided that I was going to be a writer. So it was something that actually grew upon me. I think slowly, with the partly due to the influence of books and other writers,
Mm.
and also I think to some extent my father had uh, taught me to read and write even before I went to
Mhm.
school.
Mhm.
So there was his influence there. Um, and then when I had started writing, but was not able to make a living from it,
Mhm.
so that took some resolution. So it was, I think, while I was in Jersey on my own and going through a difficult time, but I had sort of was standing by the sea on a rather stormy evening, and I just felt inspired then that I feel whatever happens, I'm going to write and stick to it more or less.
Was that The Room on the Roof?
Yes, it was. The Room on the Roof was my first novel, and it was based on a diary or journal that I'd kept the previous year,
Mhm.
just before leaving India. And on the advice of an editor there, I turned it into a novel and fictionalized it. And well, it's still around. In fact, next year it will be its 70th anniversary
70.
of its publication, The Room on the Roof. And it more people read it today than when it was first published.
I'm particularly intrigued by the character Rusty because I read it when in the 17ish time when you wrote it,
Yes.
and it connected to with me so well. But how did you make those characters so lively so that it can transcend time?
Well, because I think it grew out of that diary I kept. So it was me, it was my alter ego. So I had only to then sort of look at him from the outside and describe him. because I'd already written about him from the inside, being Rusty. So also at that age, I think what made The Room on the Roof maybe a bit different was that I was an adolescent. So when I wrote it, and I was writing about an adolescent, and so a lot of it was quite emotional, and it was a lot of feeling went into it, which later, as I grew older, maybe I became more detached. But at that moment, I was totally involved in the writing, and maybe that gives it a certain immediacy.
All your characters are very, very humane, and they're very content also. What does happiness mean to you? How can the characters be so happy?
Well, I don't know. Maybe it's normally I'm a happy person, though I've had my own moods and lows, highs and lows. But I don't. That's true. I sometimes can't help it. I might start out to write a gloomy story, and it ends up as a happy story. So I guess it's just part of my nature coming through, or some other writer from the past, from ages past, who's Dickens or somebody holding my pen and making me write the way they want me to write.
And Himalayas, you are in the Himalayas.
Because even my ghost stories, I've had a little girl came and complained. She was 9 or 10. So I read your ghost stories. She said, but they're not scary enough. Can't you make them more frightening? You can't frighten kids nowadays. So.
Is it an effect of Himalayas? You were in the. You told in one of your books that once you live in mountains for a length of time, you become.
Yes.
You belong to the mountain.
You're right, sir. I think the living up in the hills in the mountains has definitely affected my writing over the years. Since I came to live up in these hills in the 1960s, 63, 64. And of course, I'd also gone to school in Shimla and other. So I'm a hill person I suppose, in every way. And the longer you live with the mountain starts talking to you in a way, and influences you and tells you what to do. And of course, I talk to the mountain sometimes, but I don't think it's listening to me.
Yes, some of your books are very nicely illustrated. Are you very particularly fond of illustrations in the?
Well, especially if it's books for children or young people, it helps, I think, to make it look pleasant and appealing. I think illustrations are very important, especially books for young people, and the cover of a book too is important. So the designer and illustrator, I think, are very important to the appeal or success of a book. And I've been fortunate over the years to have had good illustrations.
Excellent, actually.
And we have good artists and illustrators. So many in quite a few in Calcutta and elsewhere. And I think I wouldn't even call them illustrator. I would call them artists.
Yes. Do you still write with pen and paper?
Yes. This is the pen I write with, or one similar ballpoint pen. I used to type at one time too, but I find it uncomfortable now. More comfortable writing by hand. And even in the old days, I'd write by hand and then type out the fair copy. But now I just write by hand and
somebody
send it to my publishers who are used to it. they don't mind it because they like my handwriting, so now they've been reproducing my handwriting in some of the books.
Excellent. If you have something to say about the young writers, because it is the era has changed and it's almost a century. But what will be your message to the young writers?
Yes, well, there are so many now. Amazingly, when I started writing back in the 50s, there were not many young people coming out of schools, educated boys or girls, who were really keen to take up writing or become writers. It's different now. I mean, so many young people, even old people, want to write books or even, do write books. Some self-publish. So it seems to me writing is in fashion. But I don't think one should become a writer just to be in fashion. So it should be something you really want to do, and for which you have an affinity or a gift it's a question of really putting your mind and imagination and thoughts into words and creating something out of it. So there's so many kinds of writing now. You get some who want to be serious writers and others who maybe maybe just see it as a means of making money. But certainly more and more people are writing. Publishing seems to be, I would say, not so many read now. The reading is, but you see, reading has always been a minority pastime. Even when I was a boy in our class of 20 or 30 of us, just 2 or 3 of us read the books that we borrowed from the library, and the others would return them unread. So, and in those days there was no television, there was none of the.
So you think people are reading more,
all
the same?
Computers and all that now. But even then, reading was a minority pastime. So I think only it's with the lucky ones, the readers. Others find other things to amuse them. But sometimes I think I'm a reader first and a writer second, because I have to have something to read.
Yes.
Otherwise, I get very grumpy.
So what are your favorite books you have talked?
Well, I like reading biography. I like reading first-person accounts of interesting lives. I like, to some extent, I read short stories and fiction, and I like even light detective fiction for entertainment. Read some travel books. I like history if it's made interesting. So it's fairly mixed. Even in the morning, I'll read 3 or 4 newspapers, and if the newspaper doesn't arrive, I'm in a bad mood. So it's an addiction.
Have you ever experienced writer's block? Some writers experience that.
Some do, and that's a question I'm often asked. Not often. The reason being that I won't sit down to write a story or an essay or anything until I've written it in my head. So I've visualized it. If it's a story or something, I'm seeing it happening like a film. So it's then only a question of writing it, putting it into words, giving dialogue and creating the characters and filling out. But the basic structure is there. So that helps you to avoid writer's block.
Yes.
Otherwise, if you just get an idea and you start full of enthusiasm straight away and start writing, you might, just as when you're at school or college, you might suddenly be stuck halfway through your answer. I don't know what to write next. So occasionally I might lose interest in a piece and tear it up, but Usually, I've written it in my head first.
Thank you so much.